Hello and welcome to Bat Country once again. Walking away from alcohol isn't easy. There's a huge and often unspoken cultural pressure on us all to drink and to validate each other's drinking by joining in, being part of the herd. People often say, "Why aren't you drinking?" And they're not often prepared for an honest response to that question, which might sound like, "Because if I drink tonight, I will truly, profoundly hate myself tomorrow morning." Or they may say, "Surely you can have one." And they're not prepared for the answer, which is, "Sure, I can have one, but I'll be in hospital in a week from now." Although I am tempted to do that sometimes, just to screw with people. If they're being particularly obnoxious about it, why not reply with some bracing honesty? So how do you navigate social and work events as a non-drinker? Well, here are my 5 top tips for staying sober at social events. Number 5, don't go. The end. So let's start with the safe and boring option. Straight up, ghost the event. Don't go. Stay home. Get into bed and watch some cat TikToks until you fall asleep, safe in the knowledge that you may have missed out on the event, but they all missed out on an early night with cat TikToks. You're not even obligated to give an excuse. Fuck 'em. Just don't go. Naturally, that's not always possible. There are some events that you're going to feel like you can't miss, like weddings or networking events that are important for your career, that kind of thing. But in the early stages of recovery in particular, saying no to an event is saying yes to yourself. It's important to realise that recovery and sobriety, non-drinking, comes with some sacrifices. There are some things and some opportunities that you will have to give up in order to care for yourself. But every now and then, you are allowed to put yourself first, and don't beat yourself up for it. After all, a big part of non-drinking and staying sober is identifying and avoiding things that trigger your drinking. For a lot of us, social events and the anxiety associated with them are major triggers. So it only makes sense, it's healthy to avoid them until you're confident in your sobriety. So, don't go, my friend. Have an early night, wake up feeling good. Number 4, take a sober friend. Having somebody else around who's not drinking at your event can multiply your will to stay sober by orders of magnitude. There is safety in numbers. In the early stages of recovery and sobriety, you may not know many sober people and you may not have, for example, a sponsor to lean on. That can make sober people feel pretty lonely at big drinking events, at social events. It can be quite isolating. So find out who's driving that night and latch onto them, hang around with them. They'll probably be grateful and appreciate the company, and it takes the pressure off your desire to drink in a major way. Chaucer said, "It is consolation to have another fellow in his pain." If you're suffering, go find somebody else who's suffering with you. Number 3, my favourite technique, lie. Now, I'm not a complete idiot. I know that honesty is an extremely important part of recovery, and encouraging a recovering addict to lie is inherently dangerous. Lying is, after all, a characteristic of addiction. But there is a clause in the rules. Okay? Particularly in AA, it's stated explicitly. Tell the truth, tell the complete truth, except where the truth would be harmful. So I would argue that blurting out the fact that you might not survive another relapse, for example, might be harmful. It might be a harmful thing to say in casual conversation. It could be harmful to your career prospects, or it could be harmful to the person you're speaking to who might feel like they've trespassed onto very sensitive subjects, which they have. Doesn't mean you have to throw it in their face. Sometimes a small lie about your sobriety is all it takes. So while it's important to be as truthful as possible wherever possible, you don't owe anyone the whole truth. At a social event, a simple "I'm sorry I can't drink tonight," or "I'm on some medication," like antibiotics are a very useful one, or even I have a thing in the morning is often enough. That will stifle further questions, and that's all it takes. But like, don't go mad with your lie. You don't need to say something like, I was cursed by a witch, and if I drink alcohol I'll be transformed into a grandfather clock until I'm kissed by a prince. That might be a little bit too much, but you know what? Go for it. Number 2, have an escape plan. This is kind of related to the previous point about lying, but I find it's very useful to just peace out at the right point when you notice other people in the room at the event are starting to get quite drunk. That's a good time to make an exit. Not sure if you've noticed, but drunk people are really annoying. And if someone's been harassing you to have a drink earlier in the evening, you can guarantee they will only become more persistent and more annoying as the evening progresses into drunkenness. It's best to cut that out and have an escape route planned in advance. So establish a reason before you go into the event as to why you have to leave at, say, 10 PM, and then just take your ass home, go to bed, have an early night with those cat TikToks. If you're anything like me, you will thank yourself in the morning. You don't need to be dramatic about this, about your exit. If, for example, you tell people that your mother has been rushed to hospital, that's the kind of thing that people notice and will remember. And if you lead with those kinds of big lies, you'll find yourself having to string together a number of unnecessarily complex lies, which is what you kind of want to be avoiding in the first place. Keep it small. You have to leave, you don't even have to say why. Like, if you're single, tell people that you have a date later in the evening. You'll find that people are very accommodating if they believe that you're about to go and get laid. Sex is a powerful motivator. Or you know what, just slip out of the fucking door at some point. Just go. Just be free. As their night goes on, more and more stuff will happen that will distract them from your departure and will prevent them from even remembering it the next day. You are free to leave. Ghosting, in this context, works. And number 1, the absolute most useful, most effective, and most actionable tip that I can offer a non-drinker on a social event, on a drinking night out, is to keep your hands full. Keep your hands busy. Be holding things all night where possible. Be holding drinks, be holding whatever it is. Keep your hands full. I personally have 3 working strategies for exactly this. One is that I take this beaten ass old flask to every event that I go to. It's usually filled with coffee, usually black, because even as a sober person, I still want to kind of feel like what I'm drinking, what I'm putting in my body, has an effect on my body. It's a simple desire, but that works for me. Having a flask of coffee everywhere I go is important. It helps. It doesn't even really matter what's in your flask. It could be tea, it can be coffee, it can be water, lemonade, Sprite, whatever it needs to be. What's important is that you're holding it, because the simple act of filling your hands with something will prevent people from offering you drinks, and that takes the pressure off just one more degree. 2, have a quick, quiet word with whoever is running the event or running the bar at the event. Tell them that you're not drinking, and order something like a soda and lime. No one's going to question a soda and lime in your hand. It looks like a vodka and tonic or whatever. People will just assume it's an alcoholic drink, and they will therefore leave you alone and won't order more for you. 3, the third strategy for keeping my hands full at a social event is to offer to do the photography. This is a secret strategy, don't tell anyone, otherwise my secret's out, but this is obviously dependent on you owning a camera and have a working knowledge of how to use it. But if you have that, it has never ever failed for me. Offering to do the photography at a social event, especially a work event, is incredibly useful and very effective. A camera keeps your hands full, and it gives you something to hide behind, which can help with social anxiety if you have it. And it really can motivate you to stay sober because you're actively doing something, while also allowing you to network and participate as you normally would. Now, there are exceptions to these strategies and to these rules. For example, you are going to encounter situations that feel unavoidable. A toast, for example, if you're toasting somebody or toasting an event at your do, you might find a glass of champagne thrust unwittingly into your hand, and it may be socially awkward to refuse it. And then suddenly you have a drink in your hand, and that is a dangerous situation, especially in the early days of recovery. So try this. Graciously accept the glass, complete the toast, put the glass back down, and enjoy a little pang of pride that you didn't drink it. So there we have 5 very simple strategies for remaining sober at social and work events. I hope that was useful to somebody. As always, I'll see you next time, and keep on quitting.